Oh, wait,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
this is more than yesterday.
Yeah, this is more than yesterday.
This is more than yesterday.
Yeah, but the first version
Support indies.
was total mess, so I scrapped it, and then the second version, total mess, scrapped it. And I think I've only
That happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
I do that a lot because my game's all about mini games. It's Mario Party.
All right, welcome in everyone to the Aus Indie Showcase, where we're going to be chatting with the winners of the Aus Indie Showcase, I guess. As we start, can I get you guys to introduce yourselves, your game, and what is your role in the game?
Are we starting with me?
Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Az. I am from the Murmuring Mystic. It is a one-man studio, but our games are very rarely a solo endeavor, so I work with lots of friends. The game that we have in the Aus Indie Showcase is Potion Society, which is made in collaboration with Sparkles Tea, my very good friend. It is a 2 to 4 player potion crafting card game. It's not collaborative. What's the other one? Competitive.
Competitive.
Yep, and it's very chaotic, and it's a lot of fun. Yep, that's me.
Very
Awesome.
nice.
Hey everybody, my name's Anna. I'm from Panda Party Game. That's a game where pandas love to eat pizza and party hard. It's definitely in the casual party game kind of realm, so like really quick and simple rules and quick to play. I am the illustrator behind the project, so I've created all of the panda characters in the game and co-founded it and co-created it with my husband and my brother, so definitely a bit of a nepotistic family affair. But we've just been trying to do our best to try to make a card game that is something that we would enjoy and hopefully other people will enjoy.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I'm the creative director at 100 Stones Interactive. I run a one-person indie studio here in Melbourne, and I'm making Memories Reach. It's a first-person puzzle and exploration-based Metroidvania.
Cool. And I'm Brett from Fluent Pixel Studios. Studios is a bit of a stretch because it's a solo indie developer, but we'll call it that. So I'm working on a game called Trivia Deal. It's the first ever trivia roguelike. So I think sort of Slay the Spire, Balatro, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire combined. And yeah, I've been working on it for a couple of years, and I do have a great Discord channel with playtesters who help me and people who write the trivia questions and things like that. So not completely on my own, but yeah, it's been fun.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm from Mountain Gaming, and I'm the solo dev behind Conquest of the Capital. It's a 4-player asymmetric war game with different factions and kind of like diplomacy, Axis Allies, Eclipse, but a little bit faster pace than that. And yeah, we've been working on that for about 10 years.
I'm Walid. I'm one half of the indie studio Nubis Arts. We're working on Lunars. It's Mario Party meets Party Animals kind of vibe. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. 8-player game. Yeah, we've been working on it for 4 years. It's been quite an adventure, and yeah, met a lot of awesome people throughout the way, and still more to meet.
Perfect. No, you guys have already explained your games a little bit to us, but the first question up is tell us about your game in 3 to 5 words. For those who did explain it a little bit, maybe you want to go into some details about mechanics or something like that. Would you like to start?
3 to 5 words. Oh, okay. Chaotic for sure. Competitive. There is a lot of strategy in it as well. But I think it's a fun brain full, brain empty sort of game. So once you understand the rules, you can just kind of turn your brain off and stack your cards however you would like. There's wooden spoons. It's a fun time. Yep.
I'm going to say fast, simple, competitive, ridiculous, and pun panda-filled.
That's fun.
Well, puzzles, obviously. Puzzles, secrets, lots of secrets. First person, sci-fi, Metroidvania, fine.
I'll say roguelike, somewhat educational. Oh, that's 2. Difficult and rewarding.
I'll probably say, well, asymmetric and war game, strategic and betrayal.
Party, plushy, friends, enemies, chaos.
Some good descriptive words.
Awesome. So, what made you guys decide to go into game development?
Am I going first again?
Yeah.
Excellent. I feel like this is going to be the thing. I
The
sat
trend,
here
yeah.
and, okay.
Picked the wrong seat, I'm sorry.
Sick. No, that's fine. Okay, this is actually a really interesting story. So I've always been interested in games from a very young age. I've always had an interest in two things, art and tech. And as a kid, I would start dabbling in programming and little bits and pieces, and I've always been a very creative person. As I got into my teens, me and my brother realized, oh wait, we can just make board games. We don't have the skills to make video games yet, let's make board games and see how we go. We did a bunch of that, didn't really go anywhere because we were just having too much fun making all the pieces. And then I went to uni and I studied game design. And then from there learnt how to make digital games, and then also just fell more in love with board games. And so I just kind of flip-flopped between the two. Yeah, but that's me.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Well, unlike Az, I'm not kind of trained in anything to do with game development and got into it pretty late in the game. I'm like trained as being like a data analyst and actuary, so something very different to like the illustration and game development projects. I didn't play too many board games, I guess, growing up. I'm from a non-English speaking background, so with my parents, we usually just play like with a plain deck of cards. But probably from like 2018 onwards, me and like my cousins and my friends would play a lot of party games, but found that like sometimes it would just like take really long to learn the rules, or like a certain round might take like an hour to 2 hours. So we were like, wouldn't it be awesome if you could take like the essence of some of these games, but then really simplify it down so that it doesn't take very long to learn the game and that you can play it with different mixes. So I think we specifically developed Panda Party to try to meet that gap that we feel like was there. And through making a game that we feel like met our need, we ended up through playtesting it with other people, realising that others really wanted a game like this as well, and have been really pleased to see how many people have really enjoyed the gameplay. So have kind of fallen into it by accident through coming up with this random Panda Party idea.
We do see that a lot, where people want to make a game for themselves and then others get it and they're like, this is amazing, you should ship this.
Yeah. One of the early like play tests that we did was at CanCon, which is the Canberra Games Convention, and we just kind of like asked the organisers, like, can we literally just pull up a table and try to like play test our cutout cards with people?
Fantastic.
And we were like, this is going to be the moment that's going to determine if we like keep pursuing this idea or not. And when we played it with people, we were like, so what do you guys think? Do you like it? And they're like, oh, cool, where do we buy it? And we're like, doesn't quite exist yet. But yeah, I think like that was a turning point where we're like, okay, we should probably keep giving this a crack.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I've always wanted to get into games since as early as I can remember. I got a Nintendo when I was like 6, and I think from that moment on, I knew I was going to be making games. So I studied at university up in Queensland. I studied art, got my first job up there at Chrome, went on to work at Sega and some other places until one by one, all those studios kept shutting down, and I decided that I've had enough of this. Next time a studio shuts down, I lose my job, it's going to be my studio, so I started my own. And I released my first game almost 10 years ago, and I've been very slow to make a second one, but here I am. So there's not much more to my story than that. I always wanted to make games, and now I am.
Awesome.
So for me, I guess similar, growing up loving games, I would occasionally load up a new game editor and just play around for a little bit, do a couple of tutorials and then give up on it and think this is too complex. Would happen a lot. And I think just over time, I probably got a bit burnt out of the games I was playing. I'd say now I think that I probably wasn't finding the right games. With the indie scene, I've definitely found a lot more, but probably playing AAA games and really getting tired of that. And so, I just felt like, I'll try and push myself a bit more into the game development. And once it clicked, and I think a lot of people talk about that, it's like that moment where it sort of, it clicks for you, and then getting some really positive feedback on some early prototypes and stuff on itch really got me pushing into that to sort of where I'm going now. So,
So in uni, I was really involved with a lot of different scenes, the video games, roleplay games, board games, crew, and like a lot of my friends surrounded that. And I think we just kind of fell into, let's try out something new, try out like a new idea, a homebrew of something. And eventually I we were playing a lot of diplomacy, but we wouldn't be able to get through a full game of that. That takes about 3 days. And yeah, we kind of made something ourselves that is shorter, but still has that same sort of feeling. And I mean, after 10 years of development, we eventually got to where we find that it's, pulling off that vibe.
For us, it was probably COVID insanity, where you're just locked up and you decided to do something stupid, and we did it. And part of it was ignorance. You don't know what you're getting into. You think, hey, it'll just take a year or two and we'll be done. And yeah, we'll do a good game. And then you find out it's actually 4 years down and you're still doing good. Yeah, it's if you know what you knew back then, you probably would have done things differently. But for a good reason, we did what we did, and it's good. For the reason why we did this current game, we just found out like a month back. I hate the genre that we're doing, and my brother loves it. And that's where the game came from. But all this time, we've kind of were converging on the same points. Like, my ideas come from a place I want to fix things, and he knows the things that he loves about the genre, and it somehow was working over these 4 years. And then, yeah, a couple of months back, it was like, you actually like it? You actually hate it? Yeah, that's where we're at now.
It was almost like an aha moment.
Big time.
Okay, so how did you come up with the concept of your game?
All right, so Potion Society originally was not supposed to be Potion Society. It was meant to be a completely different game that I scrapped. I had already booked my PAX table for last year, and I was like, oh no, I have no game. Oh no. And so I phoned up my friend and I was like, hi, thing, do you want to make a game with me? And she was like, yeah, why not? Let's make a game. And we were like, all right, what games do we like? We love potions. We've made lots of little prototypes over the years. We studied at uni together, and we were thinking, oh, we made this terrible little prototype at uni called Potion Craft. It is a disgusting little digital game, but we loved it so much. And we were like, why don't we take that and apply all of our new and current inspirations. We love Taro, we love just the witchy cottagecore kind of aesthetic, and just like mix that with solitaire and Taro spread-like mechanic sort of things. And then we were like, well, let's make it really beautiful as well, because we're both artists and we wanted to make a game that we could open up and just be like, yeah, this looks nice. So that's kind of where it started, and very quickly we realised we'd bitten off a lot more we can chew. We joke and say that Potion Society shouldn't exist. We did everything that went against everything we've ever been taught as game development. Terrible. So I tell my students, don't do what I did. Yeah, so we made it in about 6 months and then spent the last year actually properly producing it.
So did your friend, when they agreed to help you make it, did they know about PAX?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So they went into it knowing that it was going to be tough.
I was like, hey, look, PAX is going up. She's like, what have you done? And I'm like, okay, well.
So lots of long nights.
Yeah, but we made it work, and we couldn't be more proud of the game that we've made. So worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess in terms of the concept of Panda Party, it all kind of came together in a road trip from Sydney to Canberra, where me, my husband and my brother were in the car. I think we'd spent all weekend together talking about stuff, so we kind of ran out of things to talk about. So we were like, oh, let's try to think about what this game might be. We love games like Unstable Unicorns and Exploding Kittens and things like that, so we kind of knew that we wanted it to be an animal-based game. And I mean, who doesn't love pandas? So somebody had kind of been like, oh, what if it's this animal, what if it's that animal? And then we were researching stuff and realised that pandas have a carnivorous digestive system, but only eat bamboo, which is why they have to sleep and eat all day. So I think we kind of gripped onto that fact, and we were like, what happens if pandas don't just eat bamboo? What if they ate other stuff? What if they ate pizza? What if they ate donuts? What if they ate ice cream? Would they actually have the energy to do more things? Would they have the energy to party? Could they potentially take over the world? So we kind of hallucinated into creating this pandaverse, which is an alternate reality where pandas rule the world, and have then started concepting these different like panda characters of like, what would the panda accountant look like? What would the panda queen look like? What would a panda unicorn look like? So we kind of like really fell in love with this idea of the Pandaverse that came out from a very random brain fart.
I love that. Fantastic.
Pandaverse, I like that. Yeah, so Memories Reach is kind of like an amalgamation of just a bunch of different interests that I'm interested in. It's kind of how I make my games. Like, what do I like? What can I cram together into one thing? So my last game was a puzzle game. It's kind of what I'm good at making, so I want to make another puzzle game. I've always been a big fan of Metroidvanias, and I've always wanted to design a Metroidvania-style world, like a large interconnected map that kind of winds back and reconnects to itself and has secret corridors connecting bits and pieces and all that sort of stuff. Always wanted to build one of those. And I'm a big fan of sci-fi. I love like some hardcore sci-fi. I love the Mass Effect series. I love The Expanse. I love some of the works of like Arthur C. Clarke and that sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take all three of these things and like squish them all together. So that's kind of how the game came about. Along the way, there's been other influences stuck in there. I played a lot of Cyberpunk over the last couple of years, and so you'll kind of see a progression in my game. If you look at some of the early demos compared to the later ones, there's a lot more volumetric lights and lens flares now than there was pre-Cyberpunk. Big influence of like Metroid Prime and those sort of games in there. They were a big influence on me back at uni. So yeah, basically just a big amalgamation of all things I like in one cool product. So hopefully other people are into it too.
Awesome. Yeah, so for Trivia Deal, I was kind of playing around with a lot of different ideas early on. So just trying to get something that I thought was going to be a reasonable scope to get my first game up on Steam. So where that started was a game called Rogue Trivia originally, where it was very similar to Slay the Spire. You'd be battling different monsters and they'd ask you trivia questions and all of that. And it wasn't working and the scope was getting really, really complex. So I went down to a very simple kind of arcade version of the game, where it's pretty much like Solitaire and you could sort of buy some abilities through the level and answer questions. And I did that in a game jam with Itch, and that was getting some good feedback. Then I had a couple of YouTubers pick it up, and one of the ones, Alexa, don't know if anyone knows him, but he did a YouTube of my game and he called it the first ever trivia roguelike. And all the comments were really, really positive, and I'd love a trivia roguelike. And there was a few people saying, well, I'm not really sure you can call it a roguelike, which I totally agree with. What I did was just an arcade game. So when I got that feedback, it really inspired me to kind of, all right, I've got to think about this roguelike. I think that's going to do a lot better, commercially on Steam. I think if I can come up with a way that it's not as complex in terms of scope, that'd be great. And then Balatro came out around that time, and I was sinking a lot of hours into that, and then it kind of just made sense in terms of a roguelike doesn't have to have all these complex enemies and everything like that. You can do it a lot simpler. I say that now, but the scope has grown and grown. So we'll see when the launch date is, but you're talking about, what was it, starting in 2 to 4 years or whatever? So,
yeah, 1 or 2 years will get it done. But.
Yeah. So we'll see. I've been going for a couple of years now with that whole journey, but yeah, we shall see.
So the first couple of games that I played at uni that were like these big ones, we'd be spending days and days on to try to get them done. We tried to come up with a game that was easy or faster to play, and I kind of came up with the opposite. It were games with income tax and tribute and mining and all these different complex ideas, and no one liked it. So we scrapped it all, and they came up with another version. Didn't like that, scrapped it again. And I said, let's just start at the basics and build something, and then build the extra mechanics on top of that. And then everyone loved the basic mechanics and didn't want anything further on it. So that's what we ended up with, just a little bit extra. But yeah, it's a very base game with a lot of mind games played around the movement mechanics now. So yeah.
Awesome. It's pretty cool. With us, I think just probably the same with most indie journeys. You just have these, you're a small team, so you can pivot easily and you can change your scope as you like. You don't have all that red tape of publishers and stuff, which can be the detriment as well. Like you started off with like a concept of like, let's make a board game with mini games and let's carry on from there. And then as you go, you're like, okay, why stay there? Why don't we study other board games that have real-time board play? And that's where, you know, you're playing real time on the board with each other, throwing items at each other and rolling your dice at the same time. You didn't know those games existed on the board, and then you borrow from them. And the same with the mini games. There's like a tried formula, and as you get better with your coding and you get stronger with the platform, you start thinking, okay, why don't we borrow from other mini games from other genres? Like, why stop at, say, party games? Why not borrow from Spider-Man or from Rampage or all those games that we grew up playing? So it's kind of like, you know, a lot of indie devs, they build little games that never get to where they, you know, that never get to publishing. We've all got little, you know, games in our portfolio that we never finish, never see the sunlight. And that gives you that little bit of like, you know, you can build this little game and then wrap it up, and then the next mini game and then wrap it up. And that's kind of like where it got to a point where like, okay, this is kind of fun. We're building little fun mini games that are like love letters to every game we've played as a kid and developed into this. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Awesome. Okay, so this might be a hard question to answer in some ways, but what have been some of the highs and the lows of your development journey so far?
Okay. Lows. We'll start with negatives. End on a high. So I think the hardest part for us was about halfway through the initial concept. We were really struggling to get certain things in the game that we wanted. So Potion Society has a couple of different areas. You've got a preparation zone where you're stacking different ingredient cards. Then you move that stack into a cauldron to cook it. And then that gets put into a bottle, and then you fill your bottle, and then you complete the game. We were finding it really difficult to get the stacking working well. The cauldron stuff was pretty solid from pretty early on, but the stacking we wanted, we have a big Notion doc with all of our development, and this was the point about maybe June last year, cutting it pretty close. June last year, we had about 6 different diagrams of different elemental, like this. They all like linked together, and we were like, oh, we want elements that affect each other, and they have like types, and things can like mesh well together. And there was one point we had 12. We have 4 now. For context, we have 4 elements and a bunch of like personalities and things, but at one point it was 12 elements in a multi-layered like donut circle. Ridiculous. We threw that away, and thank God we did. So that was the low. And highs was absolutely getting our Kickstarter funded within 8 days after PAX last year.
That's amazing.
Like, we didn't expect the love that we got on it. We thought, no one's going to want to play this weird niche little potion game. Like, we knew people liked potions, and we knew that people would think that the game was really pretty, because it's just nice looking. I promise, it's really nice looking. But we weren't sure that people were going to get past the learning curve. The learning curve for our game is pretty steep.
Yeah.
So once you get through a couple of rounds, it's fine, but it's getting people there, and we're like, are people going to be able to see the vision? And they did, and they really like it. And like, couldn't be more stoked. Sometimes
those more intricate systems are more rewarding once you finish them.
Exactly.
And then you end up getting hooked to the reward. Yeah. I'm like that. That's what I like.
Excellent. Come play Potion Society. Anyway, I think that's it for me. What about you, Anna?
So I guess for us, the biggest wins have been around like hearing really good feedback from players that have enjoyed it. So like we've had people come up to us at our stalls at like this event or at other events that have been like, you know, my young kid or my neurodivergent kid or somebody else can like actually confidently participate in a game and really feel like they have a chance to play in a way that they haven't been able to with other games, because there's quite a big random and luck component to it. So regardless of what kind of like group that you're playing with, whether it's a mix of kids and adults or just kids or just adults, the dynamic is always in a way that like anybody has a chance to win and can really enjoy themselves. So being able to hear stories of people like really enjoying it and having it as a staple in their board game repertoire is like really wild and like such a rewarding thing for us. So I think that, hearing those stories or like kids come up and being able to like recite cards that we have in the game or being like, I have this one, I want the expansion, has just been like a really amazing experience. I think in terms of the challenge for us, and this may be more of like a challenge for tabletop as opposed to digital, is like how you actually get the game out there. Like, we didn't realise that creating a good game is like one thing, but then trying to get through a very highly saturated market is a totally different thing, and how often you kind of like either don't hear back or get rejected. Like, you're trying to get your game stocked in a retailer and then you're not getting any calls back, or you're trying to like reach out to a distributor or something to help get your game out there and like nobody's returning your calls. It's really hard to be like, oh, we're sitting on this thing that we know is like really cool, but how do we actually get it in people's hands? And even selling like online, you obviously have to like advertise or have a big social media presence or something for people to see it. So I feel like that's been our biggest challenge that we weren't really prepared for. It's not just about making something, but also having an avenue to get it out there.
That was absolutely our experience as well, and we've got the same thing. So we'll compare notes.
Well,
We'll figure it out.
The Aus Indie Showcase is a really great like platform for us to be able to do this, because you know, people actually get visibility of our games where that would usually be really hard.
I think a similar thing was spoken about yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I think it's quite common across the board.
Cool. So highs and lows. Well, starting with the lows then, to pick it up afterwards. It's probably an ongoing struggle with my game, which has taken much longer than I thought it was going to. It's been developed for about 3.5 years at this point. I think my initial launch date I announced was back in 2023, then 2024, then 2025, and now I've just stopped doing that. So I guess the biggest disappointment, I guess, was earlier this year, because I pushed really hard this year to try and get it done for this year, and the realization came that it's not going to be ready this year. That sucked. But I still enjoy working on it, so it's not that bad. So it'll be out next year. Biggest highs, I think doing shows like this, actually, getting it in front of people and getting the response. I think the most exciting one I've done was PAX East in Boston last year, which I'd never done an overseas show before, and I'd always wanted to do one of those big overseas ones. I've done PAX Australia multiple times, it's always fun. But I thought it'd be really cool to take the game overseas and do it at a really, really big like US show or something. And that was huge. It goes for 4 days. It's like 3 times the size of the convention center here. It was nuts. I was wrecked by the end of it, and it was great, and I never want to do it again. But yeah, that was definitely a highlight. It's I'll call it a career highlight as well as a game highlight. I don't know if I'll do a big international show ever again just because of the amount of work involved. But it was definitely something I'm glad I did. Yeah.
Very nice.
Cool. So for me, I think the biggest low was I started building this game using a plugin called Unity Playmaker, which is really awesome. If you're thinking about trying something, you know, and getting into it, it's a really good way to like prototype and learn game development and, you know, get something up and running pretty quick. And I really kept going on that for a very long time. So some of my sort of areas would look like spaghetti at a certain point, and I came to the realisation that for some of the things that I wanted to do in terms of this game type, I'd need to go and learn C# properly. My background is sort of graphic design and a bit of web development, but very much front-end web development, so yeah, I'd never really done any C#. So I basically, halfway through development, just ripped out everything and started from scratch. All of the sort of design assets and everything were there, but I had to rebuild everything in code from scratch, and getting through periods where I was like, I couldn't get the, you know, design or the lighting or things like that to look the same again was really frustrating. And I went through a period where I think like 2 months where I just pretty much wasn't working on it, just playing games or whatever. And it's sort of, if you take that break, sometimes it's really hard to actually get back into it again. So beware of that. But where that really turned around is I decided to apply for this Aus Indie Showcase. And before applying, I wanted to make sure that my demo was all finished. And so I really set myself a hard deadline on that. Took a few days of annual leave, went away and like just worked around the clock on it for a few days because I've got a busy full-time job as well. And then, yeah, got the demo to the point where I wanted it to be, submitted to Indie Showcase and then got in. And it's just been amazing. Like, this is definitely the high point because for me, it's all about, like, I love entertaining. I've always been interested in that. Like, used to be in bands and things like that. So it's not about the money. Of course, it'd be nice if commercially it did well, but the biggest highlight is it's been seeing people, standing around laughing, making mistakes and having jokes with each other, and we've had a line, the whole event, and people just keen to come back and keep trying again. So that is for me what it's all about, and yeah, absolute high point.
I think for me, probably the low point has been just in development. When you get to a point, we have some really, really great playtesters that have helped us throughout the game, and they give like a lot of tips about how we can improve mechanics or change small things up. But we did a blind playtest years ago, and I just realised that it wasn't going to work, and no small tweaking was going to fix how the game worked. So I guess the low point was just realising, I have to completely scrap all the documents that I had on it and start all again. So yeah, it's always disappointing when you have to like restart from the very beginning, but you come again with fresh eyes, and that's a good point. But I think really the highlights is going out in front of convention goers or blind playtesters, having a go with them, and then coming back and saying, I really enjoyed the game. I know what I'll do next time to be able to counter someone's moves, or set up my own strategies to be able to win the next game. It really shows that people are really thinking about what they're going to be doing with the next time they play, and they're interested in playing again. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably agree with most of the highs and lows that we've been saying. It's just, the community is your high, and it's also not having it is probably the low part. When you're, you'd be surprised. You were saying that it can be easy for indie devs, but indie game dev market on Steam is extremely cluttered. Just getting your game there is wild, But yeah, that's probably one of the harder things that you learn. Like, you understand how to game dev. All of us know how to code, or you learn how to code. Those are easy things that you do this, you get there. But getting the game out there and letting people know that this exists, and even the response, sometimes you don't know if you're building something that people are actually interested in or not, and you're building in a void by yourself for several years. That's probably the low, and then the high is the flip side of it, which when you see people actually having fun, and then you're like, okay, it is fun, it is good, the people doing it. The opportunity PAX gives you on a massive scale, seeing people coming and playing it, queuing up, actually queuing to play your game. Oh, we're doing something. This is cool. So yeah, appreciation for everyone here who came down to just see us and, show up to the booth and stuff. It means a lot.
I will say that the Aus Indie Showcase section down there has been pretty chockers the entire time. It's good to see. Really good to see.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for aspiring indies who are looking to make a game or are partway through their journey?
Playtest your game. Actually, no, I'm serious. Give your game to people and let them give you feedback, and don't tell them what to do. It's so hard to give your precious little baby to someone else and be like, all right, tell me what you think of that. But it's one of the best lessons that you can learn, is that people just want you to make cool things, and the vast majority of people are just wanting your thing to be even better. So playtest your stuff, and if you're making board games, paper prototype and playtest as you go. Don't just work in a document. Make sure you're actually playing your game. I know that sounds dumb. Play your game. That's it.
Good advice.
Thanks. That's right.
Yeah, no, I definitely echo that sentiment as well. Also not being, because it's your game, sometimes you can get a bit emotionally attached to things. So being open to kind of critical feedback and changing certain elements of the game, often results in something being for the better, and playing it with lots of different types of groups we found was really helpful. The other thing that I'll say as a piece of advice is just don't give up. I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier, is often these things take a really, really long time to get anywhere, and there's going to be points throughout the entire journey where you're going to be is this worth it? Should I give up? It's too much effort, whatever it might be. Or even once you've got the game, it can be I was rejected by these people, maybe we should give up. We've really found that having that perseverance to just keep pushing through and believing in what you're doing has really, really paid off. And even though it might feel like you're being annoying, don't stop posting on the Facebook groups for getting feedback. Don't stop calling the retailers. Like whatever it is, just keep hustling, because if you're spending time on something, obviously it's good, and in particular if you've gotten good feedback from other people, it's worth pursuing. It's just not an easy journey.
I was going to talk about playtesting as well, but that's been taken. Sorry. I think of something else. I will say, though, it is never too early to playtest your game. I've had some developers, I've asked if they've done live playtests, and they say, oh, it's too early yet, there's not enough heart in there. Like, no, I playtest my game every month at a local game developer meetup. Often it's just a grey box, well, not now, there's a lot more out in the game now, but early on there was, when I'm building rooms, it's just a grey box with the base mechanics in there. It's not pretty at all. It's just the bare bones stuff in there. I just want to get people playing it, see how they respond to it, and then improving from there. And that kind of iterative process is really important in game development. If you're not playtesting constantly, your game is going to be far lower quality than if you do. Other than that, I'd say the next bit of advice, especially if you're getting into it, is scope small. Make a small game. Figure out what a small game is, and then cut it in half, and then cut it in half again. Because it will take infinitely longer than you expect. So, yeah, don't make an RPG as your first game. Don't make something involving lots of characters and lots of dialogue and lots of story. Scope very small, especially if you're only a small one-person team or a couple of people.
Funny, that must be like really important, because that exact phrasing was used yesterday. That exact phrasing of cut it in half.
It's lessons that some of us, I don't know if anyone else on the panel, but definitely me, probably should have learned a long time ago.
So my advice is to watch your scope. Whatever you're planning, cut it in half and then cut it in. Truthfully, that is very accurate. I've had a lot of other ideas since I've got into development of like smaller games that I could build, but I only have that now because I went through the process of making the scope mistakes. So I'm not sure. It's not always going to be a one-size-fits-all. I definitely wish that I had those simple ideas now and to just get that through to Steam, because that whole process of actually, or if you're releasing on Steam or whatever it is, the whole process of learning how to do a build and then pushing it to Steam and understanding how wish lists work and understanding the marketing side and all of that, you won't get that until you sort of get to that later stage. But here I am with the demo and I haven't released it yet, so, take it with a grain of salt. My other advice is that I think it depends on what stage you're on. If you're in early stages, you might be looking at, YouTube for tutorials and things like that. Just be mindful that everyone's journey is different. I think you need to try and work out what makes sense for you and speak to a lot of different people, because that will help you. I think when you speak to people, you get all of their research, everything that they've learned, and their perspective, and then take what sort of makes sense. Because there's a lot of people on YouTube who will tell you, you must do this. You cannot do it this way. Your game will fail. It's just clickbait. So just be mindful that, it's not always following one person is going to be the best approach there, because I think there's definitely quite a few different ways to approach it. And then the last thing is just in terms of, I have imposter syndrome, so I think it's always, I don't see myself as an indie dev until I've proven something, but you've kind of just got to believe it for yourself and just push it and get others to buy into it, and that comes to that hustling that we were talking about before. Just keep hustling, keep pushing, get into Steam festivals, get into events, go to these nights where you can get people playtesting, because that will give you the motivation to keep working on it. Like everyone will say, set a really clear schedule and all of that, but that won't work as well as having an actual defined, I'm going to be showing this to people at the next event, I have to have it ready. It will give you the kick you need. That's for me anyway.
They've all stolen my idea, but I actually...
Gets harder as you go down.
It does. Yeah.
That's why I sat in the middle.
Yeah.
Should be safe.
I'll say it's never too early to say, here's a game idea I have, put yourself out there. We have a group of friends that know the first edition from 10 years ago, and they still remember, when I say the words Conquest of the Capital, they remember an old version where you're crawling up the hill against a tyranny using income tax and all that jazz that no one wants to play. But
I really want to see this income tax thing.
I'll send it to you.
Really cool.
Yeah, I'm quite intrigued now.
I want to see it. I think everyone does.
But that friendship remembers Conquest of the Capital. Even people that have like moved states, they sometimes like hear about that and then they can reach out to me. But it's something that really joined my friendship circle together, and like it's something where I think a lot of people can share in that journey online, even if you're at a really, really early prototype state. So it's really never too early to like put yourself out there.
Yeah. Not great advice. No, my turn. For me, I guess, I don't know. Advice is difficult to give people just as a blanket, because everyone's journey is just so unique and so special. If I had to say something, I want to say bite off more than you can chew sometimes. That's kind of where it got us to where we are. Like, it's scope creep, I get it, and advice against scope creep is real, and you want to scope your project, but I don't think we'd have gotten to where we are. Like, instead of just being turn-based, let's make it real-time boards, which is definitely a challenge. Or why not add Twitch integrations? We literally added it 2 days before the beta, but it was a hit, it was a blast. Like, taking those risks and trying those things, even if it's not perfect, it made a difference. Like, it's a lot of work and it's a black box that you don't know if you're gonna do it or not, or how it's gonna work. But taking that step and actually doing it, it's a lot easier than what you thought, and you actually get into it and somehow it progresses and it gets you there. So maybe biting off more than you can chew. And yeah, maybe the other thing is probably we all love our games. Maybe love the players too. We just seem to just focus on the game and will other people like it. But when people play it and they criticize it or they give you feedback or whatever, you get precious about your game. I guess just loving your player base as well. That probably is like something I find we forget sometimes. But yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
All right, so that's the end of our questions. Nice. But we did want to open it up to the audience. Nice. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? I should probably go and get. Did you want to? Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out, I've been pissing myself laughing because my mic says mech instead of macaque. Sorry.
Oh, it does. The one mic with the spelling error.
You got a mech?
I got a mech.
Yeah, nice.
We're all
Not
mixed.
on the other side as well.
Oh, hell yeah.
While they're doing that, I guess one thing that was mentioned down the back there with the scope, something they brought up yesterday was making sure to allow for failures as well, and then learning from the failures, which I thought was a good one, because it applies to everywhere, not just game devs.
Yeah, when it comes to scheduling games, when you're doing your schedule, the general thing you do is you add on like 20 to 50%, expecting it to overrun by at least that much. I think it's in budget actually, not in time. Time usually twice as much.
I mean, that's the leeway we have as indie devs. Like, people expect it to be cutting edge and break and have issues in it. It's not meant to be as clean as polished as AAA.
Yeah.
That's like the strength you have in your platform.
Yeah. So it's the opposite of the scope thing. It's don't.
I know.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, if you have a question, just pop your hand up and I will come and pop a microphone in your face. It's not that scary, I promise.
Just wanted to ask, what kind of like external hurdles did you have when you were developing your game? Like, did you have other commitments get in the way? Did you have like uni work get in the way of your development? How did you like manage your time and overcome that hurdle?
That's a good question. This can be open to start for everyone.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I have a full-time job. I got, a family as well. At the end of the day, if you want to make something happen, you kind of just magically find that time, I think. So I probably don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I forego that. And the hardest thing is foregoing gaming, to be honest. And that's a lot of people say, well, we still need to do R&D as game developers, so we need a bit of gaming time. But yeah, that's sort of stuff that I would put aside. And then, like I said before, I have taken some, a little bit of annual leave to go and sort of just focus on it, because it is hard to get that extended time to think. But I try and build my life around, like waking up early and doing exercise and keeping my mind active so I can actually do these things at night. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Sleep. I was just going to say sleep's the other thing that goes too.
I do have something to add. For context, I am a lecturer. I teach game design, and that's like my full-time job outside of making games. But a lot of my students say to me, "As I don't have time to do that. I don't have time. I'm almost like make time. Like you have to make time to see your friends, and you have to make time to make your game. But you've got to spread that time equally." And don't forget that sometimes, you do have to make sacrifices and be like, I can't go out to this thing because I'm going to work on my work or my schoolwork or my game. But at the same time, you've got limited time. You need to choose where you put that. But you can always carve out small portions to actually make your stuff.
Yeah, I guess it also comes down to if you're pushing yourself towards a deadline.
Oh, yeah, you'll make that time.
But if you're outside of, let's say you're outside of uni, you can schedule little bits of time, and it makes it a little bit easier. A little scoop.
Another thing that I found that helps with like making time is relying on your friends and family and people that care about you and want you to succeed. So like one of the things that's eating up a lot of my time at the moment is I've got a 1-year-old that I've left back in Canberra with the grandparents, which is obviously like a really big thing for us to like be away from him. But being able to like openly be like, okay, we need help. Do you know what I mean? Like keep the baby for 5 days. We need to go to Melbourne, and being open to like asking for help has often been a really good way to actually be able to make time as opposed to just losing sleep or anything like that.
Good answer. I like that one.
I think with the 10-year dev cycle, I'm probably not the best to answer that question. But I definitely say, as a project manager in my full-time job, like set your goals very clearly as to when you want them done. And like, I can't say that for computer dev. That's a whole nother category. But if you set your goals, then you can know where you're trying to aim for. And then, while it might push stuff out, you will eventually get those goals approximately by that time. And then, you're not wasting time thinking that you're going to be just moving on to something else you set, and you focus on that side.
Perfect. We got another question. Yep.
Partly related to that last question. Let's say, unfortunately, you had to take a break from making your game, whether that be a couple hours, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or even a couple of months. What are some examples you have of note-taking so that when you do come back, you're not just lost at what you've done?
Every playtest that we did, I would always stand behind the players that did it and write down everything they did during the game and my thoughts on that. So it was really a lot of help from me observing other people playing rather than me trying to do it and think ahead of how I was doing it. It really is just a lot of observation, note-taking, and having other people there where they're the ones actually delving into the problems and the solutions and giving you that feedback. So, yeah.
There are a lot of great project management tools out there that you can use to keep track of all your tasks and where you're at and what you need to do. Sometimes just very simple ones work really well. I just use the Google Notes app on my phone when I'm at shows like this, and I just make notes of stuff as people play the game, so I can come back to that later. And I use more robust tools at home on my desktop. So there's ways of keeping track of where you're at and what you need to do as general project management, and you should be able to refer back to that when you come back if you need to be away for a bit. Although I find when I'm stepping away from my game for a bit, if I'm away, going or traveling for a few weeks or something, it's often a good mental break anyway, and it's not a lot of trouble to get back into it. And occasionally while you're away and your mind's clear, focusing on other things, you might start to get ideas and work through problems when you're not full-time focused on your projects. So it's stepping away like that now and again is a good thing to do anyway, I think.
Yeah, for me, I use Notion for everything. It's really cool because you can do the project management side, and it's quick for note-taking as well. And if I'm away, I'll take a sketchbook. I mean, I've got a 2D game, so it's very much I'll sketch out ideas and have a very clear plan of what I'm actually going to build and try and find problems before I'm jumping into the editor or Photoshop and starting to do stuff first. So that sort of time away helps you get a bit of perspective away from the computer and just doing dev work.
Great.
Brain.
Yeah, just don't use Notion like I do.
Yeah.
It's messy. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, your brain is a tricky thing. Sometimes when I'm working, it'll be like 2 or 3 a.m. and I think I'm winning. And then I wake up in the morning and I see what garbage I wrote. So it's really tricky that you think you're doing good and you're like, I need to take taking break becomes secondary. Sometimes that break is what you need and you need to just stop what you're doing even if you don't want to resume. Probably the tricky thing is driving yourself to resume after, say, a 2-month break. Like, it seems daunting that I've forgotten where I was and where everything is. And once you get your fingers in, that's probably the bigger thing. Once you start digging in, it all just falls back into place and you got the threads again. Probably more motivation than remembering where you need to continue, probably.
I will add something very quickly. If you are like me, I mean, a lot of us are neurodivergent, but if you have the ADHD, get yourself a buddy to hold you accountable. So Ithing Sparkles Tea, who worked on Potion Society with me, an absolute godsend. We have a big Notion doc. Again, love Notion. Not sponsored by Notion. I don't think any of us are.
No, I'm not sponsored.
Thank God. But I didn't want to jump on something. So essentially, we have a massive document and we have all of our documentation pretty well kept. And that is due to the fact that we are catching up every week and talking through all of the things that we're thinking about. So even if we are taking a break, there's been weeks where also a little bit chronically ill, so don't get to work on stuff all the time. So sometimes it is breaks and then we come back and we're like, okay, where were we at? What can we do now? So even if you've just got a buddy who you work on things with, whether they are working on the same project or not, just having a work friend that you can just catch each other up on your projects and keep each other accountable is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I seen a YouTube video recently that had the quote of, sometimes the best thing for creativity is to not be creative.
Yep.
And I think that was absolutely perfect. Sometimes you just need to step away, do something else fun, and then while you're doing it, there's that moment where you go, oh, that would be so good, and then you're straight back into it.
That's really important, actually. I didn't answer the previous question because I don't really have an issue with finding time because I work full-time on my game. My problem is almost I have too much time. And it's very easy to fall into a trap as an indie dev to think any time you're not working on your game is time wasted. And that is a very, very bad habit to fall into. And you need to have a proper work-life balance. If you're not stepping away from your project and you're not getting out there, then you're actually doing it wrong, I would say. So I now work a very strict 40-hour work week, Monday to Friday, and I don't work weekends, which is not what I did on my first game, and it was very, very bad for my physical and mental health. And I think you'll have a much better time making your game if you're able to actually step away from time to time, visit friends, see people, do other things that are not related to your game. It'll refresh your mind, it'll refresh you just mentally, physically, and I think you'll do better work on your game as a result.
It's where the inspiration comes from, outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we have another question? Where's back? Oh, there.
We can do a quick one.
One quick one? Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Wow, that went quick.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Told you it would go really fast.
Yeah.
When working on a game solo in any capacity, but you know that you have to bring in either freelancers or other people, and then you might have to put in some sort of investment, like if you have to pay people or anything, how do you know when that moment is, when it kind of changes from being a prototype to see if the concept will work to actually investing some of your money and more of your time into the project to create something more substantial?
So I guess at the start of the year, we looked at the game and we said, well, I like where it's at and people like where it's at. I'm going to go ahead and just let's go live. We kind of made a New Year's Eve resolution and go, yep, I want it all done. So we went out, we looked for 3D modelers, we looked for artists, we started doing that investigation, seeing the budget we needed, and then like you set yourself a budget and you just go, well, that's what we're going to. And I think we probably cost overrun a bit for art, but yeah, I think you just have to finish what you've got so far and then move on to like the final product as like one big art budget.
You can do it in stages too, of course. You don't have to like get the game to a certain point and then bring on your contractors for the entirety of the rest of the project. You know, you can go, okay, I'm going to have an artist on for a prototype, spend a little bit of money just to do a little bit of art and see if it gets any traction. And then, you know, maybe the next stage is like to run a Kickstarter or something, so you bring on more people for that. Or, you know, you bring on funding and people in stages throughout development, as is, you know, comfortable for you for your production pipeline, I suppose. So don't feel you need to like do everything at once.
Anyone else? No?
All good.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Can we give a big round of applause? Oh, round of applause.
And once again, a big congratulations to you guys for the Aus Indie Showcase, and enjoy the rest of PAX.
If you want to see any of these games, they are all in the Aus Indie Showcase section down in the expo hall. It's got the big blue banners. You can't miss it. So go and check them out and hound them with all your questions.
They're fantastic games. Go and check them out.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you all. I didn't get a photo yesterday, so I wanted to get one.
You have to give me your email. I'll send you a terrible